The drive for innovation has traveled about 21,500 miles through at least 30 states in the lower 48. We've seen a lot since we started July 10th in Chicago, and today we've pulled into probably one of the most beautiful spots that we have yet to see, Clos de la Tech. This is the home of the man, the myth, the legend, T.J. Rodgers, CEO of Cypress Semiconductor, who has a passion not only for semiconductor technology, but also for wine. Over the last several years, he's married his passion for wine and semiconductor technology into a sophisticated network, and he's working with the University of California, Davis, to show off some of that technology. You got into wine 10 or so years ago, and then you brought high tech in your own vineyard here in Northern California. And you're using PSOC technology, you're using RF technology, MEMS sensors, all kinds of stuff. Talk to us a little bit about the Network Vineyard, and then tell us what the heck this thing is.
All right, this little spaceship here is an experimental fermenter that is used at the University of California, Davis. Davis is the #1 wine school in the world, and they heard about my advanced measurement techniques for making wine, measurement as opposed to manipulation, and asked me if I'd help them. So I built them 152 of these. So I'll explain this one, but it's basically as far as you can get with as a research fermenter. To tell you what this thing does, it's easier to talk about the process in front of an old-fashioned fermenter and talk about the winemaking process, then you can understand what this does. So I've got one of my real fermenters right here, and I'll explain over here.
All right, let's do it.
This is a 1-barrel fermenter. So you put 800 pounds, 0.4 tons of grapes in here, and you make wine, and that wine will match exactly to 1 barrel. And then 1 barrel of wine makes 25 cases or 300 bottles of wine. Our winemaking process is copied exactly after the famous French Burgundian vineyard Romanée Conti, the way it was done in the 1830s. For Pinot Noir, you pick the grapes, they come in baskets, you dump the baskets into the fermenter. Now their fermenters were made out of like a barrel cut in half, only bigger, but stainless steel is the same, really. You fill the grapes up to about this line, and then you have to crush the grapes. Velita actually foot crushes the grapes. So you dump the grapes in here. They're whole clusters. You haven't taken the grapes off the stems. They're a little step ladder. Velita puts on her wetsuit because it's cold and you can't handle a day being in the wine cold. Hops in, starts stomping. And stomping takes about 20 minutes, maybe 15 per fermenter. And you've broken, let's say, 20-25% of the grapes. Then you wait. Don't do anything. Some other difference is today you'd add yeast. And you'd add some refined yeast that came from some place and it was grown under ideal conditions, etc. In France back then they didn't know about yeast, therefore they couldn't do that. But what they knew is if they crushed the grapes and waited, fermentation would start. That's the praying part. And it turns out there are indigenous yeasts on the grapes, about 25 different kinds. And it turns out they knew better than us because those 25 kinds of yeast, some of them are not alcohol tolerant, so they take off, but then they die because of alcohol. But the ones that aren't alcohol tolerant start fermenting at a lower temperature. So the low temperature yeast ferment and then die. And there's like 3 layers of yeast that come up and die. And then finally, the wine yeast, Saccharomyces, takes off. Now the good news is once yeast takes off, Saccharomyces, it kills everything. Everybody thinks, oh, yeast smells great, bread smells cool. Yeast is a killer organism, absolute killer, and it kills all the bacteria and sterilizes the fermentation. That's why you went and prayed for the yeast to take off, because it was sitting there. What they didn't know was when the wine was sitting there for 2 weeks or a week, they were getting a very beneficial process step called cold soak, where the grapes were sitting on the juice and the color and flavor was coming out without any alcohol and without any heat. And it turns out that's beneficial. So in California, I have to have artificial October. So my first little technology thing that I do is on this tank, there's a cooling jacket. And it's very simple. It's divided right here. You put cold water there. The cold water goes around, comes out of here. And then you can put cold water in there. And you can make those grapes think it's 50 degrees outside or 45 degrees outside, and that's what I do. Okay, now I explain the process. Simple. Put them in, crush them, wait, ferment it. I'll show you pressing in a little while. Press it and siphon the wine into the barrel. Wait for a year and a half. Wait, siphon the clean wine out of the barrel, put it in your bottler, put it in the bottle, put it in the cork, and ship it. That's the process.